On that fatal Tuesday of 27th October 1987, when Operation Lalang was launched, people began to disappear, mostly in the stealth of the night, in unmarked police cars. The Operation Lalang operators moved like snakes in the grass, and within 2 days, 55 people had been taken. On the third day, it was 63 detained. Because the operation was so clandestine, and the police cagey, and the press fearful, it was difficult to ascertain the exact numbers being taken each day. However, the numbers quickly swelled to 109 within a fortnight. The Inspector General of Police, Tan Sri Hanif Omar, briefed the press on why the crackdown was necessary. He said that the situation in the country was tense, and if no immediate preventive measures were taken, the prevailing situation would undoubtedly bring about chaos. He claimed full responsibility for the action. He kept on stressing that it was a police action and that it was not politically motivated. On the same day, in Parliament, the Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, elaborated on his reasons for the crackdown. He blamed certain people for attempting to create chaos and obstruct the government from carrying out its responsibility to maintain peace and stability. He said that the current situation had reached danger point, therefore preventive measures had to be taken to save the country from possible disaster. He said that the government could not wait until a riot had broken out before acting, and he cited the racial riots of May 13, 1969 as an example. He accused the opposition party leaders, especially the DAP, for blowing up racially sensitive issues. Critics and analysts of the country think otherwise.
It was concocted and conceived and conducted by the political masses, by the political rulers, definitely not by the police. The police were just there to carry out the orders.
I think it's a little bit hard to believe that it was just police action. I think it's more political. Maybe when there had been a little bit of police element in the sense that they felt that things were getting out of control and maybe they would have to then take something to keep things in control. But I think if you look at the consequences of what happened after the action, the way everything simmered down and almost all the prime ministers and government problems seem to be sorted out one after the other, I find very hard to accept that explanation that there's police action.
Well, our immediate comment is that it is a political action.
I do not think it was a mere police operation. There's lots of evidence to show that it was.
Ladies and gentlemen, so can you guys move a bit in front so that the audience come from behind can just move to back side. So move a bit in front. Dan tangan ke tepi. Sorry for my mix Chinese Chinese pula English and Malay. Okay, sorry guys, can you just come on this side so that the audience from behind can just move easily to move in. And thank you.
Was politically motivated. The North-South Highway scandal, which had gone to court just before the crackdown, the UMNO 11 case, which had also gone to court. These be two of the most outstanding instances of events which were linked to crucial political developments. And I would suggest all the other things that had happened, the University of Malaya electives issue, the Chinese schools issue, all these issues had political undertones, and there's no way in which one could argue that it was not politically motivated.
From all accounts, there was certainly an escalation of racial sensitivities in the months preceding October 87, and it is my impression that in the month of October itself, there was a serious heightening of such tensions. culminating in a sense in the meeting to oppose the Ministry of Education's decisions about appointment of senior assistants in Chinese medium schools held at the Temple Chinese Temple.
There were unprecedented strains within the UMNO leadership. Mahathir had not been a particularly popular leader, and feelings against him within UMNO reached a pitch during a leadership contest held by the party in April 1987. In the struggle, Mahathir and his supporters, dubbed Team A, were opposed by a formidable array of some of UMNO's leading luminaries, led by the former Minister for Trade and Industry, Tunku Razali Hamza.
The so-called Team B of Tunku Razali had come up with a legal challenge to Mahathir's position, and this posed a real threat to his political position, not only as Prime Minister of Malaysia, but also as UMNO President. So he was very, very real, and his position was highly insecure.
He failed to unite his own party. His opponent or his critics increased, and his influence also went down. At the same time, as a Prime Minister, he has not shown a good image.
The youth wing of UMNO staged a rally at an open-air stadium in Kuala Lumpur, urging the government not to yield to a Chinese community protest, and called for the expulsion of Lee Kim Sai from the cabinet.
It is my impression that all these meetings were very highly charged racially, and in the UMNO Youth Rally in particular, it is said that very provocative sentiments were expressed in both the speeches as well as in the posters and banners which were exhibited in that meeting.
UMNO leaders then announced that a mammoth anniversary rally to be attended by as many as 500,000 people would take place in Kuala Lumpur in a stadium with a seating capacity of only 60,000.
That tension had reached the climax on October 18th of 1987, and with what they call the wild shooting by this private, this army chap, Private Adam. But when Adam was caught on the 18th, the tension that had built up, especially in Kuala Lumpur, when people started to realize that the shooting of the wild shooting of the Private Adam had nothing to do with race or anything political, the tension, in fact, subsided very quickly, not only in KL but throughout the country.
Oh, there was a heightening of the tension, but it's something that could have been easily been diffused by the government if it acted positively.
In passing the ISA, the Malaysian Parliament delegated immense authority to the executive in the person of the Minister of Home Affairs, who also happens to be the Prime Minister. It allows him to detain a person without trial for renewal periods of up to 2 years at a time. What all this means is that a person can be detained indefinitely without trial.
We have to introduce this law which we always today under the Internal Security Act to curb their activities and bring an end to this property committed by the terrorists. But the law under ISA was used by us to deal only with the corporate terrorists, but never had to be used against the ordinary citizens of the country, against the political opposition, against religious bodies,
terrorists. There was from the beginning until now, every government that has been ruling this country has resorted to the Internal Security Act to move individuals whom it perceived as dangerous, as a threat to its monopoly of political power in this country.
The victims of such punishment were not only the detainees, but also their families, especially the spouses and the children. The trauma they went through can never be erased from their memories or blotted out from the country's history.
Because we try to be calm, try to be normal. There's nothing is normal. Everything here for America reality. Here these extremely polite special branch officers searching the house for politics as they're only doing their job. And they disappear into the night to your husband, and all the time you try to behave normally. When you ask why and receive no satisfactory reply, you try to behave normally. When you have any feelings, they cannot tell you. And when you ask where and you feel them, they do not know. Can you imagine the range of feelings that you're left with? Dominant overall is fear. Fear of what will happen to your loved one, and helplessness, as you know not why or where he was taken, and your imagination runs riot. Everything you want to believe will have a constitutional right to something undermined. You know the call of a house is wrong, but when the police were the ones robbing you of your husband, who do you call? I remember standing on the middle of the road at about 2:30 in the morning, wondering what the hell I do next. It's an extremely terrifying experience that I can't forget. Don't believe. The trouble that you told, according to me, is going to be the legacy for it's doing this now. Every time I saw you and feel many people of the friends that remember when the children sit at the face and say, you know, things don't go right. Things are going wrong. Why didn't you do anything about it?
I'm proud to say that my father is the honorable man with very strong principles. One who puts duty before self, and is constantly intent on defending the defenseless. However noble the use of the ISA in the measurements of last year may have intended to be, it is imperative that my father and the other individuals under detention, and who has been unfairly denied their historically entitled freedom, be immediately released so as to restore the notion of democracy in Malaysia.
On the 27th of October,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our 30th anniversary of Operasi Lalang. Okay. Welcome, guys. Before that, I have just a simple activity for you guys. Can you guys raise up your left hand? Come, left hand, and then your right hand together, and then use your energy to give a big clap. Okay, thank you everyone, thank you. So I'm the MC for tonight. My name is Xiao. I'm the interns from SUARAM. So nice to meet you guys. So how are your guys the dinner? I hope there are nobody's for rushing their dinner just for our public forum. Okay, so before that, I would like to introduce a little bit background for our tonight, the public forum, the Operasi Lalang. So basically, Operasi Lalang is a major crackdown carrying out beginning from 27 October in 1987. So the Operasi Lalang saw the arrest of 106 people under the ISA. So tonight, it is the 30th anniversary for the Operasi Lalang. It is very important for you all, and especially to the young generation, for my young generation to know more about what is happened during the Operasi Lalang, and and especially for the young generation to know what is happened during the 1987. So, it is a saying, the more you learn about the past, the better prepare for you for the better future. So, without wasting our time, allow me to introduce our moderator tonight. Our moderator? Okay. She's a very beautiful ladies. Yeah. And okay. Be patient, guys. Patient. Okay. She is the former executive director of SUARAM, and also a secretary of Gerakan Manso ISA, and also the last coordinator for Gerakan Manso ISA. And her name is Nalini. Give a big clap to Nalini.
Hello, thank you, Sia. I never been introduced in such a way. Thank you so much. I forgot for a while that we are celebrating 30th anniversary of Operasi Lalang. Okay, hi everyone, salam perjuangan, and welcome to 30th anniversary of Operasi Lalang, forum on my side of story. We have excellent speakers today, and all the former Operasi Lalang detainees to share what happened and their side of story. Who I think some of us have know their stories because they have their books and publications, but I think the current and younger generations, this is the time for you to know what really happened and a real story from real people who was affected by Operasi Lalang. So without further ado, I would like to call all our speakers. Can I have everyone to be with me here? Dr. Kwa, please take a seat. Dr. Nasir, Irene, Chin Chin, someone need to, yay. Nasir, yeah. We're supposed to have one more speaker, Mr. Gudial, but I'm not sure. Maybe he's on the way. So we're gonna start anyway. So forum ini akan dijalankan dalam dua bahasa. Kalau ada apa-apa soalan masa Q&A boleh tanya dalam bahasa-bahasa yang anda comfortable with. Dan kita mungkin akan ada orang untuk translate dan sebagainya. So jangan takut, jangan malu untuk tanya soalan. Sebab forum ini adalah untuk anda tanya lebih banyak soalan daripada speaker kita. Okay, I would like to introduce all our speakers. Our first speaker is Chin Chin. Chin Chin is a former Operasi Lalang detainee. Chin Chin. She also one of the founder member of Awam, one of the women NGO in Malaysia. And followed by Dr. Nasir. Dr. Nasir is a former Operasi Lalang detainee. He also founder member of Parti Socialist Malaysia and also one of the co-founder of SUARAM. Our third speaker is Irene Xavier. Irene is former Operasi Lalang detainee. She also founder member of Sahabat Wanita. And our next speaker is Dr. Kwa Kia Soong, co-founder of SUARAM, former Operasi Lalang detainee. Also, he have wrote a lot of books. So there are a lot of books out there. Most of the books about ISA, I think, written by Dr. Kwa and also Pak Abu Sari Sungip. He's a Reformasi ISA detainee, was detained during Reformasi. Can I have hand of those former detainees, Operasi Lalang detainee or ISA detainees, whoever here? KK Tan, former Operasi Lalang detainee as well. Any others? Sari Sungip, Pak Abu. Okay, kita akan start. So setiap speaker akan diberikan masa 10 minit. Okay? Kalau sudah 5 minit, saya akan tunjuk 5 minit. Kalau sudah time's up ya. Okay, dan kita akan teruskan dengan speaker kedua. Okay, boleh kita mulakan? Can, okay, we start now. I'd like to invite Chin Chin to share her side of story.
Hello. Good evening, friends and fellow ex-detainees. Quite a lot have been said and shared, especially these last few days, about the ISA and experiences of detainees and families. But I'm told that the purpose of this gathering this weekend is to share with the young of this event in our history from those who have struggled through it. Let me start with some background on the ISA, or Internal Security Act. This was what I was arrested under on the night of 27 October 1987. The ISA was a preventive detention law enacted in the early 1960s during a national state of emergency as a temporary measure to fight communist rebellion, so they say. It was only repealed in 2012, recently, even though emergency was long over. Under the ISA, the police may detain a person for up to 60 days without warrant or trial and without access to legal counsel on suspicion that he or she has acted or is about to act or is likely to act in any manner prejudicial to the security of Malaysia. This was what I was told when arrested. No facts were given, just mere suspicion. The ISA comprises two parts: an initial 60 days of solitary confinement and a 2-year detention period renewable indefinitely. All this is done without trial and without review by the courts. Since its inception in 1960, the ISA has been used to stifle dissent, political dissent. Many activists have been detained and several for more than a decade without trial. That is the brief history. Tonight, I will focus on two things. One, the two questions that I am frequently asked about my detention, and the two things we have to do moving forward. Of course, there are many more lah, but two lah. If you could ask two questions of me, what would they be? Think. What would they be? If you could ask two questions of me. Yes, I think that's relevant since this happened 30 years ago. Okay? The two questions that I'm frequently asked is, why was I arrested? And the second is, was I tortured? Was that what was in your mind? Yeah. Okay. There are two aspects to my arrest. One is my activism. But more pertinent is the political context. At the time of my arrest, I was involved in women's NGOs. You know, one thing I noticed when Nalini was introducing us, you know, we come from an era of NGOs. And in fact, all of us were either founder members of this NGO or founder member of that NGO. That was the era then that we come from. So at the time, I was involved in women's NGOs. Prior to my arrest in April 1987, we had organized a demonstration along Jalan Ipoh to express our anger against the brutal rape and murder of 10-year-old Ang Mei Hong. How many of you remember her? She was on her way home after buying breakfast for her family. We as in the women's organizations took to the streets to demand for quick action from the police against her perpetrator. To date, the rapist and murderer has not been apprehended. 30 years. So this was one of the activities that I was involved in. As women's NGOs, we took up issues that affected vulnerable sections of our society. For example, support for Singapore detainees, support for the residents of Papan, which KK Tan was very involved in, who were exposed to radioactive materials dumped in their backyard, promoting and organizing street drama, working with squatters. This street drama, which we use as a kind of alternative way of education. And this was one of my charges. Because I worked with the Philippine Educational Theatre Association, which they say was infiltrated by the Communist Party of the Philippines. When I was issued my detention order after the 60 days, I was accused of promoting class struggle and communist ideology through my involvement. Please laugh, because it is the response that it merits. It's so ridiculous. Okay, briefly, that was my involvement. The impetus for the mass arrest was the unstable political situation. In April 1987, Dr. Mahathir faced his first party election in 12 years, having been elected unopposed before then. He was challenged by his finance minister, Tunku Razaleigh Hamzah, for the UMNO presidency. The contest was between Team A and Team B. Have you all heard? Team A and Team B, especially younger people. Dr. Mahathir won by a very slim majority. Allegations were made that several delegates who had voted were from UMNO branches that were not properly registered. So an appeal was filed by 12 UMNO delegates to declare the assembly and the election null. The case came before the Kuala Lumpur High Court. The judge ruled that under the Societies Act 1966, which we are still under, he had no option but to find UMNO to be an unlawful society due to the existence of several unregistered branches. Team B quickly set up a new party called Semangat 46. Heard of that? Which claimed to be the successor to the old UMNO. But the Registrar of Societies refused registration. Mahathir set up a new party, UMNO Baru, after UMNO Semangat 46 registration was rejected. UMNO Baru inherited all the old UMNO's assets. Using this political climate, the government argued, also known as Dr. Mahathir, that racial tension had reached dangerous proportions and the government had to arrest those responsible for stoking the tension to prevent the occurrence of racial riots. A classic case of gajah sama gajah berjuang, pelanduk mati di tengah-tengah. So we were the pelanduk. Okay, so that was the political context that warranted, our arrest. Okay, now to the next question. Was I tortured? Those of you who came early saw the video. I think most of you by now would have seen it because it has gone viral since it came out on Kini TV on 27 October 2017. And so in the video, you will have seen the famous four, the four women who gave testimony. So you would have known what conditions we went through, okay? So I will not repeat that. So was I tortured? A lot depends on what we mean by torture and how we experience it as individuals. For me, torture means the practice of inflicting pain on someone as punishment, or as a means to control the person to obtain a goal, to achieve a goal. It can be physical or mental. And in this sense, we were all tortured. Not only us, but our families as well, who had to endure the agony of not knowing where we were or what was happening to us. I did not have a family visit for some 3 weeks. Can you imagine what my husband went through? My husband of 3 months. And when we were finally allowed to meet, it was only for 10 minutes. Just enough time to say hello and goodbye. The main feature of the 60 days was fear. I was frightened of what they could do to me. To fuel this fear, my interrogating officers made a lot of menacing remarks and insinuations. And I believed them. I believed when they threatened that they could actually carry them out, because I was completely and totally in their hands. There was nobody and nowhere I could turn to. It is almost impossible to imagine such a situation. If I had not gone through the experience, after 60 days, the Minister of Home Affairs, in my case, Dr. M, extended my detention for another 2 years. Of the 106, 40 were given 2-year marching orders to Kamunting, 4 of whom were women. And these are the 4 women you saw in the video. While Kamunting gave the 4 of us bigger space to move around, it is still a prison nonetheless. The one thing that weighed heavily on my mind was, how long were we going to be detained here? Given that the ISA allowed for indefinite detention, how long were we going to spend our lives behind bars? A convicted criminal knows how long they will be in prison. We didn't. we were completely at the mercy of the Minister of Home Affairs. Okay, it's difficult to talk about it even. Okay, moving forward. If you have any questions, if I can answer afterwards, I will oblige. What have we learned from this experience? Because for me, to recount, relate, to live this experience again is for a purpose. You know, there's nothing to relish about it. So rather than dwell on the past, I would like to focus on what we can do moving forward. And for me, there are two aspects. One has to do with oppressive laws. Okay. Even though the ISA has been abolished, there are other repressive laws, either newly minted or inherited from the British. Number one, the National Security Council, or the NSC, which was passed in 2016, just last year. It gives our PM, as chairman, absolute powers to declare an area as a security area and direct the deployment of security forces to the area and order the exclusion, excavation, or resettlement of persons. That's number one. Number two, Prevention of Terrorism Act, POTA, also passed in 2016, just last year. This is similar to the ISA. A person suspected of terrorist activities can be detained without warrant for a maximum of 60 days. This can then be extended to 2 years at a time. A concession, though, is that the detainee must be presented to the magistrate within 24 hours. Small concession when you can be detained without trial. The third one, Security Offences, Security Measures Act, SOSMA, which was passed in 2012 and recently extended for another 5 years. It's a five-year thing. SOSMA permits 28 days of detention without trial. Okay, you want to know more about this, you can go to the internet and read about it. And our Bersih 2.0 chairperson, Maria Chin, was detained under this not so long ago. Number four, Prevention of Crime Act. Now, this is a very old one, 1959, amended in 2017. It's enacted to deal with crime prevention, blah, 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 blah. And the amendments remove a detainee's right to make his case against his detention without trial. That means you cannot basically, make a case against yourself. There are a few more, okay, but I will not bore you with them. But like the ISA, these laws and more have been used by those in power to curtail freedom of expression, criticism, and to entrench their positions. We must work to repeal them before they're used on more people. As you can see, Dr. M had used the ISA to his advantage. This is a reason why we have to ensure that no such draconian laws exist that can be misused to anyone's personal advantage. The second, in 1988, following Ops Lalang, there was an assault on the independence of the judiciary and the rule of law. To date, until today, we suffer the effects of the subordination of the legislative and judiciary branches of the executive, the legislative and judiciary branches to the executive. Not in democracy, there are three arms. They are supposed to be all independent. But in Malaysia, the legislative and judiciary are subject to the executive. So we must demand for the reinstatement of an independent judiciary. So these two things I feel we can do. So to end, we should demand for the repeal of preventive detention laws and the establishment of an independent judiciary. We should demand this from all parties in the coming general elections. Make this a demand from citizens to all parties running for the general elections. I would like to thank the Teo Beng Hock Trust for Democracy, the KLSCAH, the Youth Wing and the Civil Rights Movement, and SUARAM for inviting me to share in this event. SUARAM was born from the supporters of the Operation Lalang detainees. You see, a positive outcome that we should celebrate. Okay, to end, I would like to say a quote. Fear and pain are real, but so is hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you, Chin Chin. Thanks for sharing your side of story. I never heard of the story, although I've been in SUARAM. But on my time, it was like from 2006 to 2013, actually. Documenting torture of ISA detainees or any detainees, something that I never want to do, but you have to do, because that's part of SUARAM's work. If you don't document the torture, and anything happened to detainees under the ISA, it won't help you in any campaigns. One of the reasons why Gerakan Mansukan ISA and SUARAM got a lot of support from people, because we actually gave the real story of real people who was detained under the ISA. I think this is very important. And it's very sad that SUARAM is born because of somebody else's freedom has been compromised, but then it's a good thing that people who actually detained under the Operasi Lalang had the courage to form SUARAM, and now we are here celebrating 30 years and 28 years of SUARAM, actually. Okay, so moving on to our next speaker is Dr. Nasir, also one of the co-founder of SUARAM and also current chairman of Parti Sosialis Malaysia. Dipersilakan.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. It has been 30 years. The experience of Operasi Lalang. Sometimes, as Chin Chin saying, when we talk about it, there's a flashback, you know. So actually, we have not forgotten it. So when I started to write, I thought of writing 2 pages, and it ended up 7 pages. Of course, I'm not going to read it out, because then it came back, you know. So, you know, in the whole process, you're trying to hold your pride and dignity because they're smashing it all over the place. That is a real fight in a sense. I mean, you know, if somebody says that in ISA, you stood your ground and you can't. They dramatize, you dramatize. And they think they got you because they're trained to break you down. Okay, so how do we go about doing it? Especially if we don't have that kind of experience. And we are just victims of political manipulations. The real heroes are the families and friends, you know. We are there, we are already in there, we are not going anywhere anyway. You know, here you heard of friends and, you know, families running all over the place, special branch chasing them. It is sad. I was ostracized because I was a Malay murtad, and actually Malay should be detained under the ISA. And I was an activist, intellectual. I joined the SUARAM, Party Socialist Rakyat Malaysia, and didn't hold a post. Oh, that means I'm very dangerous, you know. And so I must have an agenda, basically. That's how they think, because when you're in there, you're already guilty. You know? If they are interrogating you, they're trying to get information to pin you down with charges. I also believe that I was drugged because I was totally isolated. I'm walking over a lot of junk of bicycles. I'm walking through glass doors. I see this frame cat jumping all over the place. And then I saw this new table. I see worms. I press it. And it broken up. I press it. And they ask me, what are you doing? I say, worms. And they all laugh. You know? Of course, they didn't give my glasses. You know, I had my glasses in standard 5, you know, get heavy headache and diarrhea and the whole works. In fact, the last day before I went to Kamunting, in the same room, it's like I'm walking on carpet. I'm walking on my hair. Lucky my hair grows back. The other thing, also, during the detention, I have to, I have to rehearse the questions said, because I did lie. Because if I don't lie, more of my friends will come in. You know, and I have to maintain the lie because you're going to ask the same question a week after that. And that is so difficult. And you go back to your place, you lie down, of course on wooden plank, you can't really sleep because, you know, your leg overlap each other, and then you have to rehearse the questions. They do ask the same question. The other thing also, they want to talk to you. They give the impression you want to have what they call intellectual discourse. And they know about communism, they know about anti-government propaganda. And after all the talk, and they will ask you, what do you think? Then you have to be very careful. So I would repeat the same thing that they said, and they think I'm stupid, fine. You know, because I know that's what they were looking for. And my strength was being a socialist, basically, because I did it because I believe in it. So it's easier. It's tough. It's easier. If you go in, you want to be a hero, they'll kill you. Just do it because you believe in it. And because I've been threatened, you know, you lose your job in universities, and so many other things scare the hell out of you. You just keep on going, just like habeas corpus. You know, I was already saying, you go this habeas corpus, you give me a long stay. I said, well, it's my right. You know? So you could see that other things also, as I said just now, that when they're dramatized, you also dramatize. Simply because, I don't have acting experience. But in that kind of situation, you come with something way off and you salute yourself privately, right? Because you have to, when you dramatize, then they think they got you, and then they'll relieve you. I always try to drag them into a discussion on nutrition, because I'm a nutritionist and a food technologist. So I'll drag them to so that they don't come back, because they know the stuff, you know. So if we are thinking that they're not bright, they're quite bright, they're well trained. Of course, the family visit. So I know that when my birthday was the 31st October, you know, and they are watching. So I have to be cool, so that, because if I show weaknesses, they're going to drive it in until I break. Then I lost my children and wife during that time. Okay, and they also have what you call the soft and hard approach. I have my friend being detained there. They said they only deal with me, but actually they exchange notes. The idea is that if they can break us, they get promoted. That is the competition within themselves, you know. So this is the other one. Of course, you know, I'm not that tough. In the quiet, you know, you cry, but you don't show. And then, of course, one of them, I remember, I would like to put my face into his mouth. Really, I mean, I'm a boxing champion, I'm a taekwondo man. When I was out, I saw him, you know. I look at him, I just walk away. You know, dendam lah, cukup dendam. And certain time, I just yell, are you for the rich or for the poor? Because, you know, and then start, and like, and then after that, I didn't see the same face. But when a new face comes in, I get into trouble again. You know what you know about me, you know, sometimes, you know, we have some meetings in there. And then, when you're sitting down, you hear the voice next door appealing, tolong tuan, oh my God. And then you hear click, 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 the tape recorder, you know. Oh my God, they got my speech somewhere else. So, you know, that's part of the whole thing. Other things which also happened to me, which I wouldn't discuss much, in my cell, they stopped the air vent. I couldn't breathe because I was in underground, you know. And then the whole room started to shake. I hear aeroplane, helicopter jet. I say we are at war. Okay, and for 3 days the place shook. And then when I come up, when they brought me up, I said, "Did you hear anything?" "Yeah, I said a lot of planes." "Where will you be?" I said, "Must be close to the airport." You know, stop there, and they laugh. Later, I found out I was in Bukit Aman ground, underground. And if there's an airport, I'd be hearing it every day, some planes and all that. Only I found out after I've left, and then this contractor told me because he worked there. Okay, and the other thing also, towards the end of 60 days, I mean, I played chess. I was a chess champion in faculty Perhimpunan. So they were begging out chess, I played chess. I beat the shit out of them, and I feel good about it. And I let them win, and they start telling it about it, and they beat again, you know. That was my cheap thrill, you know. But basically, the last day, they said, "Nasir, we want you to confess on TV. If you do that, then, you know, you'll be okay." I said, "Why should I? I was never wrong before." I ended up in Kemunting. Okay, in Kemunting, I tried to maintain my sanity. You know, I read the Quran, do acrylic painting, wrote poems, become electricians. You know, the fan are wiring up, you know, then you can switch by the bedside to get some fan, you know, all that. Gardening, I took care of fallen baby bird and sparrows, and I can fly with me, you know, but I stayed away from them so that, you know, I'm already detained, so let the bird be free. And then I also rear fish, you know, when it floods, these small fishes, the Coke bottle, you know, you carve it out and you rear fish. Just to keep your mind. I even had an apple tree. And one of my friends who wants to leave wants the apple tree. I said, "No, that's mine." And he died on me. And then there was the review board. And later, one of them was the judge. I have not been in court, so they asked, I answer, you know, and then beside me was a lawyer, I think it was Muhyiddin. He was very, very, you know, proper. I just, they yell, I yelled back, you know, like that. It's just a farce. And I was told, I mean, one of the guys told Karpal that if IC cases, you know, that they can handle. But for us, political detainees, is Mahathir. There's nothing else. Although, and then we have to do the Sumpah Tahanan, Ikrar Tahanan, and sing Negaraku. Okay? So we gang up, we don't want to do the Ikrar Tahanan. Negaraku, we have to sing, not a big issue outside. So what we did was, because they had to be present when we do that, we sang the Negaraku, but the time they came, there was no more. We had done it. So there's just a small spite, you know. Also, there was a hunger strike. Dr. Kau would know. Our friends, actually, they fasted. Only drank water, a bit of water. We Muslim, we fast, but buka puasa, but eat minimal to be with them. And I was a nutritionist. Before they fasted, I wrote note on 2 camps. What's going to happen to your body every day when you start going hunger strike? Okay? Just to let them know if it happens, it's cool. Because they know what's happening to their body. You know, they panic. And then, but I also find when our friends are hungry and all that, they go a bit paranoid also. I go to their room, you know, to clean the place. They come, "Who is my room?" You know, yelling away. You know, those are the things that could happen. The other thing which was interesting was that I was exposed to acupuncture. My old friends who had been there, I mean friends, Chinese friends who had been there for 10, 12 years. So we did the barter trading. I teach them English, they exposed me acupuncture. I was afraid of using it because they didn't get needles. They used paper clip and they sharpen it and all that. You know, I was afraid, needle, you poke the wrong one, somebody dies, you're gone. But when I went out, so I learned acupressure, but when I went out, I learned from a Chinese master on acupuncture. So I was in practice for more than 20 years as an acupuncture. Even had my clinic before I became a wakil rakyat, a mantan lah. So I also had the experience of, I have a PhD student, because she's doing PhD and I'm the boss lah. By the time she saw me, she was shivering because she had to go through the prison, the special branch, the home ministry. By the time she reaches me, she can't speak. I'm in that kind of situation, so I had to calm her down and look at the thesis, So I only have one graduate student who graduated and became a PhD person. But also, as you see, there was a white paper. I'm also being accused of being a Marxist. And IACM meant for people like me. So when friends started to be released, I became a bit antisocial because I expect to be long. So I do mix around, I do my painting. That's how it should be, so that when they leave, I don't go into a shock. So I prepare myself that way. I think I was the second last. Our group was the second last. My group, Kamrul Zaman, Karpal, Pato, myself. Another one was Yusuf Mamali. And then the last one was Kit Siang and Guaneng. So basically, that I find that when they also come and visit us when we were in Kamunting and want to review us. So I used to tell them off, you come here so that I can confess, you get promoted, right? No lah, doctor, don't say like that and all that, And then, so I said, for me, you give me 2 years, I'll live my life for 2 years. A month before, you'll tell me you're going to extend another 2 years, and I'll live another 2 years. That's it, I'm going to do. That makes them a bit more problematic because I should be begging. Of course, there are other things that happen also during, our friends. Some we are not happy with it, but then people are under pressure, so we are not, and we don't talk about it because people are under pressure, and if people confess under pressure, we don't accept that also. So we take it for, that's life. After Kamunting, I was bitter about the false accusation. So every time we have press conference, I will pinpoint, this is a special branch. So they get very restless, take their pictures. So they get worried, what are you going to do with the pictures? Of course, we were a bit more, if the government people do something wrong, we go for them. If police doing something wrong, we go for them. And then with my friend, we went for a holiday when we're not supposed to be, we are confined. I think we went to Johor with our families. And then we went to the police station. Says, where have you been? I says, nowhere. And he smiled. And I said, yeah, you know why you're asking me? And then I said, okay. You know that we can detain you again? I said, you already burned half of my body, might as well burn the whole body. And that one get more confusion. Asked me to report, I don't report, so. And then, after that, I met my friend who was the Ketua Pengarah TV. We were together in US. During this time, I saw him on TV as well. He told the IGP, Nasir is a good guy, we were together in the US and what? Keras kepala, stubborn. If I'm not stubborn, then I will agree with them. And the way they go, is it possible? You say, no, it's possible. Is it a bit possible? Anything is possible. Then you strike. You did it. And that's how they do it, And the other thing also, I had my clinic. I had even the CPO of Terengganu comes for a rawatan clinic, acupuncture. I even have special blind couples coming. I say, when you're in my clinic, you're my patient. Outside, we fight. That is the rule of the game, And they just smile. And one is couple, Bukaman says, oh, your file is high and thick. I say, yeah, what to do because they're doing their job. Anyway, so after that, Yeah, after that, I'm still very stubborn. So, keluar masuk lock up maybe 15, 20 times with my friend Selvam somewhere. You know, we take turns to go in. That's life, I guess. So, I think maybe we can learn some lessons from it. Sometimes we become strong, sometimes we are weak. I mean, we falter. That's life. I mean, there's nothing great about it. I mean, we're not super beings. If I stayed more than 15 months, maybe I just break. I never know. So if somebody says you're tough, no, you just have to be, you know, to play with it. That's how you survive, but still maintain your integrity. That's the thing that I think is important. So, and also we make sure that when we make police report, it's like doing an affidavit, you know, when you go to Bukit Aman. No flowery language. Because we have got into, our guys got into trouble because of kutuk police, huh? And they go on that one and forget the issue. So that's why I said, don't bring it, just go straight to the point, like affidavit, this, straight to the point. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nasir. I would like to call Irene as our third speaker. Irene?
Salam perjuangan to everyone. A lot has been said already, so I don't want to repeat what has been said. I'll just concentrate on things that I think that were not said. One is, do they beat women in the 60 days? They do, because they did beat me. And when they beat me, there was no woman police escort. Just 2 police officers, my IO and somebody else. And the reason why they beat me was they claimed that I was lying. They claimed that they had found the truth from other detainees. Some of your friends, they have told us the truth, and you haven't. So just on that flimsy premise, the IO got angry and then they beat me. So for me, the whole 60-day experience is a very demeaning experience. The purpose is to confuse you. The purpose is to make you become mentally and psychologically dependent on them, so that you will say what they want you to say. So this is the kind of thing that I used to keep repeating to myself, that I'm not going to agree with them, that I will just stand my ground. And another thing that they kept on telling me is that I'm a communist cadre, and I'm a very hard cadre, because I don't cry, because I didn't ask for any benefits, you know, like ask for slippers or, you know, ask for things like that, ask for a blanket. I didn't ask for anything. It didn't occur to me to ask anyway, because I know nothing is free with the police. In detention, however hard I tried to keep my mind sane, but I think that there are certain things that they have done to my mind which still bother me. Because in detention, they ask you names of people that you only remotely knew, but when they keep on asking you, your memory comes back. You remember very well meeting that person, why you met that person, what you said to them. All of those things become very fresh in your mind. And so during interrogation, I tried very hard to forget names, forget these, which I didn't succeed during the 60 days. But after that till now, I have a problem with names of people. I can just, for no reason, forget the names of people. And I attribute that to the interrogation techniques that they used. I don't know what else they have done with my mind, but I think this is one of the purposes of the Internal Security Act. I also belong to a generation that has seen the ISA, has seen the extravaganza and the drama that went with the ISA. I have seen confessions of trade unionists, for example. The General Secretary of the International Transport Workers Union, a Malaysian, was on TV. I remember that when Ghazali Shafi was Home Minister at that time. So these are the things that they did with the ISA. So they just had free license to do whatever they wanted and to make deals. Whatever deals that they want to make, they make. For example, they told me, you're a very talented leader. You're wasting your talent in being a communist. Why don't you support Sami Velu? And you know, we can make sure you become the Wanita head of Sami Velu, of MIC, and then you can sort of make it active, and you can put your activism into that. Then they told me, I don't think a person of your temperament and your character can survive in Malaysia. So once you are released, I think you should migrate to Australia. So these kind of things, they said they could just say anything they wanted. They plan what they want to say, and then, yeah, just mess up your mind. Another thing that I want to share is after I was released a few days before the first anniversary of Operasi Lalang. And so friends spoke to me on the phone because I was confined to Seremban. They sent me, my condition of release was that I should be in Seremban and I should get permission if I leave Seremban. And so friends phoned me and said, this is the statement, do you agree? Do you endorse it? Is there anything that you want to change, and so on? So just on the phone, public phone, we discussed these things. And then the statement came out, and DSP, who was the IO of one of the other women detainees, he came to Seremban, to the police mess in Seremban. Then they came and took me to that guy, and they asked me, do you know who wrote this statement? And that sort of made me very angry, because they're basically asking me to be informer. And around this DSP, there were a lot of young police officers. So I got angry and I shouted at him. And I said, why do you bother to take me out of my house, bring me here, and ask me to do something that I would never do? So if you want information, I'm the last person you should ask. So I said, please send me back now. If not, I will walk back home. And so that episode sort of humiliated him in front of all the junior officers. So I was sent back. And after that, they are a very vengeful lot. After that, they would come to my house at odd hours in the morning and shout my name loudly. So I have to come out and show my face to show that I'm in the house. So this kind of harassment they do. So the whole ISA is like a license for any police officer who is ambitious and who wants to move on in his career to do anything that he likes with the detainee. Basically, I think that is the reason for preventive detention. So this is exactly what is happening to people held under SOSMA or held under POTA or any of the preventive detention acts. So it's just giving them license to get information from you, even though it is false, but you come up with something. So I think there is no reason why there should be any form of preventive detention. And if you ask me about young people in the country, basically I would say I'm very impressed with them. Because I grew up in an atmosphere that sort of, we all believe that if you're arrested under the ISA, you're going to be in for a long time. And then your activism is finished. You can't come back and do anything. This is the kind of fear that I had of the ISA, and people of my generation all believe this. So ISA means it's a terrible thing. But somehow, the young people don't have this fear, as I see it. The young activists don't have this fear. They come up with all kinds, they have come up so far with all kinds of methods to share what they think about their leaders, to say what they want to say about MPs, about elected people, and so on. And I think after Operasi Lalang, and maybe with the setting up of SUARAM, something changed. Something really changed in the country. ISA was something that people didn't have to dread so much. So different groups will come, and Saudara Sari Sunggip was detained. They asked us, the women's wing of his organization asked some of us to actually speak to them about what happens to ISA detainees. This sort of thing never happened in my time. I had to personally go and speak to detainees individually, and they'll only speak if they were alone. They wouldn't speak in front of other people. So all of this, the culture of activists, I think somehow has changed for the better. But of course the tactics of the government has also changed in their view for the better, which is for the worse for us, right? So while Najib took away the ISA, he put in place other things that would still have the same effect. Why he took away the ISA? Because it was such a dreaded law. So long everybody hates it, everybody is afraid of it, so it would increase its popularity by taking away the ISA. So when something else comes in its place, he thinks it doesn't match up to the ISA. But I think we need, young people should keep on saying that these laws are the same as the ISA. As much as we wanted the ISA out, we also want all these laws out. Police better learn how to get information legally and not illegally. That's what they have been supposed to have been trained for, to obtain information legally, to be answerable to courts and to magistrates and to judges. But of course now our task is quite big because Mahathir destroyed so many institutions, and one of them is the judiciary, so that needs to be fixed. The Election Commission needs to be fixed. So many institutions need to be fixed. The MACC needs to be fixed. All of these have now become part of the Malaysian civil service. They are not autonomous, independent organizations. So I think the task ahead for us is big, and we need to go on. Since Operasi Lalang, I have met many of the women detainees from the Labour Party that time, and they have shared their experiences with us, and their experiences are much, much worse than what I have gone through. I wish that somebody would document these. I don't know whether many of them are still around or not. But even the women were treated so badly from their stories. And I think the men should be the same. So these stories have not really been documented. But I think it is important for us to remember that when power goes wrong, people's lives can be so affected and damaged. And I think this for us, the struggle today is as necessary, if not more necessary, than it was in 1987. Yeah. So these are things that I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. I'll pass it to Dr. Kwa.
Saudara-saudari sekalian, comrades and friends, I think there's nothing wrong with Irene's mental faculties because she could speak without any notes at all from start to finish. And I agree with Chin Chin earlier on about what questions do you think you want to ask me, you know? Because when I was detained in between from 87 to 89, I knew that this was a question everybody would ask me when I was released. So I started writing a book, which was published on the same year that we were released in 1989. And also yesterday in my keynote address, I spoke at length, and as people say, I spoke too long. So I don't want to say any more about all that kind of stuff that I've been writing in the press. But what emerged yesterday from the family sharing was the question of how did we cope? And how should the young people proceed from today, from here, from our experience, you know? Because we don't want to be here all the time. We want, you know, other people to go in from us. Because I was saying yesterday, when I was detained, there was two old people from Dong Jiao Zhong, from this organization. One was Mr. Lim, the chairman of Dong Zhong, Mr. Sim, chairman of Jiao Zhong. And they were saying, oh, these pitiful elderly men getting arrested, detained at this age. And I've reached this age of Mr. Lim Fong Sing at the time now. So please, take in some young ones next time. So my speech, I would like to say, what I want to share today is what we can, you know, give to the young people so that they're prepared the next time. Because you're very fortunate from the experience sharing by all these people who were detained under Operation Lalang. Some of the lessons can be learned from there. So how did I cope? All of us have different, you can see from the speakers, and yesterday and today, everybody has got their own strategies, you know, to survive. Because that's all we tried to do, as Nasir said. We tried to survive, you know. We're not all Supermen. And I tried to maintain my body, mind, and my soul, BMS, you know. I think I'm probably working for BMS, the vegetarian restaurant. But it is important, not just to prepare for the detention, prepare now, you know. Make sure that your body and your mind and your soul are always in ship shape. When the time comes, you know, when the special branch knocks on your door, you're prepared for it, okay? Because another way in which I cope in life is that when anything like that happens, I change gear. I'm talking about the age of the manual car. Today you are going to the age of the electric car, but I live in the age of the manual car, and most of the time I'm traveling at 4th gear. And when the special branch knocks on my door at 2:30 in the morning, straight away my mind goes into 2nd gear. Not 3rd gear, not 1st gear, but sort of 2nd gear. And you just have to besides being prepared in your mind, body, and your soul, be prepared when anything like that happens, go into second gear and prepare for the worst. Prepare for the worst, because we activists, we know what has happened before. The whole history of the ISA, of the repression in this country, you have to prepare for the worst. And then you have to prepare for, learn some skills of disciplining your mind. I mean, I do Tai Chi. I've been doing Tai Chi before my detention. You can do whatever you like, Silat, meditation, Qigong. Nasir has got his acupuncture needles, and so forth. I think that is important as well. Apart from anything else, in the under solitary confinement, in that very small space, you have to think of how you're going to keep your body in shape. The easiest thing when you're under solitary confinement is to, like say, no books, you can't read anything, you can't write anything, go to sleep. I think that's lethal. You try and sleep in the daytime, you stay awake at night. And when you're awake at night, you'll be thinking of all kinds of things under the sun. And it is, to me, insomnia and not being able to sleep at night is one of the worst tortures, I can think of. So prepare for that kind of discipline of your mind. Learn some art of some kind now, So this is not so much about Operation Lalang. And another strategy of mine is to have, if you come to the 60s, what was happening in China at that time, I thought it was very good. And you'd be surprised to know, I was reading a Wall Street Journal the other day, and some of the techniques and the slogans that was during the Cultural Revolution is now being used in Harvard Business School and all that. But one very important slogan I learned during that time, which I think is very good, is called paper tiger. Think of your opponent as a paper tiger. The Vietnamese thought of the Americans, the strongest military in the world, as paper tigers. Can you imagine that? How small, how weak by comparison to America, the United States, and they beat the hell out of the Americans, and they beat them, and they have a peace in 1975. That's the paper tiger strategy. So whatever happens to you under detention, think of your opponent as a paper tiger. During the time when Mahathir was so strong, the great Maha Firaun, I always thought of him as a paper tiger. Yes, he had a big flood of advisors and speech writers and all that from Harvard and Cambridge, wherever they are. But after retired, he's talking rubbish most of the time. I put on my Facebook today, Operation Lalang, sudah lupa. Something like that. And he says rubbish things, he writes rubbish. And that is what I mean by paper tiger. Most of these people are paper tigers. Donald Trump is a paper tiger. And that's how you should go through life. These people are paper tigers. And so when you're detained, whatever, think of your opponent as a paper tiger. And that's how you get through life. That's how you win the Vietnam War. Maintaining your body, mind, and soul. I think Nasir has gone through some of that during detention, Maintaining your dignity. Your dignity now, when you're detained under the ISA and you're at the mercy of the special branch, your dignity is so much more at stake. That's why when Anwar Ibrahim recently, when they had accepted Mahathir to be the chairman of the Pakatan Harapan, I wrote an article and said, please preserve your dignity, Anwar. And Anwar's daughter said, yes, Mahathir has to apologize for what he called my father. It's on video, If Mahathir doesn't apologize to Anwar, what the hell is Anwar's dignity? You have seen what Mahathir said about Anwar on video. I don't have to repeat it. It was all over the news. It was all over the video. You can Google it. And if I was Anwar's child, I would say that Mahathir has to apologize to my father, Anwar Ibrahim, if he wants to be part of Pakatan Harapan, he wants to be the chairman of Pakatan Harapan. That is what I mean by dignity. When you're detained under the ISA, you're at even bigger mercy, as Nasir has said, under the ISA. So you have to maintain your dignity. After you go to Kamunting, during the 60 days of solitary confinement, you just have to, go on second gear. You can't try to be clever anyway. They'll beat the shit out of you, But when you go to Kamunting, there are things that you can uphold your dignity. And one of them is what? When you have to leave the Kamunting camp to go to the hospital, for example, you must refuse to wear handcuffs because you're a political detainee. And this is a right, not of Operation Lalang detainees, but it was a right that was fought for through the years of all the ISA detainees from the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s and all. The people on the left mainly, who fought for that right. And when we were under Operation Lalang, we learned about that right. And we always refuse to wear handcuffs. They'll threaten you and do whatever they like, but you have to maintain your dignity and say, I will not be handcuffed when I go to the hospital because I'm a political detainee. Habeas corpus, I think Anne and the other families were sharing. We as detainees as well, during the 60 days when you're at the mercy of the special branch, you'll be also pressured not to feel their habeas corpus. So now, you young people, you have the advantage of hindsight of what everybody said yesterday, the family said, and now we say, go ahead, ask your family to file the habeas corpus, your only recourse to freedom. Of course, as we were here yesterday, you find that Siva had said that none of the habeas corpus writs that were fielded succeeded from outside, but there was one that succeeded. Kapal Singh, he was my roommate, and most of the time he was on his back because through the 60 days his back had been, badly damaged. And I helped him type his affidavit and his case in court. And he won. He won his affidavit before Justice Pei, And you know how he won? Through a very absurd, you have to say it's absurd because it's almost like fiction. You know how he won? Siva yesterday was telling you how impossible it is to win a habeas corpus. It's true. But you know how he won? We all have allegations of fact. On this particular day, on this particular forum, whatever, you were saying this, you were, rebel-rousing the crowd, etc. But in his case, he was before the same judge that on that particular day that is mentioned in the allegation of fact, Kapal Singh was arguing a case before the same judge. Can you see anything more ridiculous than that? So to win your freedom under the ISA, that is the only chance you have of winning your freedom for some absurd twist of fate of that kind. So habeas corpus again, how to maintain your dignity. Solidarity. When you're on hunger strike, Nasir talked about the solidarity of people, and that is important. When you're in there, you think that solidarity is an easy thing? No, the special branch plays with the different detainees. And people today that you think are very strong, wow, in parliament talking a hell of a lot, whatever, they're very strong. During Operation Lalang, at Kamunting, they were not like that. Some were weak, some were strong, some were too clever, etc. But that is the truth that happened in Kamunting. So maintain your dignity, because if you lose your dignity, others like me and Nasir, we're there to see for it. We are the witnesses to their behavior. And then, like Nasir said, the Ikra, a primary school kid goes to the assembly once a week, don't they? Once a week. We grown-up people, when you're in Kamunting, they want you to do it 3 times. Not only to sing the national anthem, but to pledge the Ikra to the government, to the Rukun Negara, blah, 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 Can you beat that? So we thought of all kinds of ways, because, we're not detained in the Tempat Tahanan, we are detained in the Tempat Pemulihan. So when we first brought to them, we said, Tempat Pemulihan, who are they trying to pule, That is ridiculous. So this is what we're talking about. Preparing for the worst scenario. Again, it depends on who your model is. people like us, and we all have different models, haven't we? You know, my models, I went through university in the 70s and all that. My model was people like Victor Jara of Chile, you know, who had his hand smashed by the fascists under Pinochet, and he was killed for playing the guitar and singing, you know. And then who else did we have? Anybody saw my Facebook posting tonight? But if you've seen it, don't put your hands up. Anybody knows what is, today is the anniversary of whose arrest and detention? Chia Tai Po of Singapore, arrested on the 29th October 1966. One of the longest serving political prisoners in the world, longer than Mandela. Chia Tai Po. So when we were students, we were always fighting for his release, etc. So he's my model as well. You know what you should, the worst scenario you should hope for. You could aim for. Mandela, of course, everybody knows Mandela. He was detained for something like 29 years, wasn't he? And one of my best model for surviving, you say, how do you survive a detention? One of my best model, of anybody's model, is Pramodia Anantatua. Okay? Deprived like we were of writing material, of reading material, and he wrote his novel. I think it was the trilogy. 3 novels on Bumi Manusia. Yeah? He wrote all that in his head. Is that an impossible model? So if he can do that, you have to spend your time in the 60 days trying to think of things, trying to write poetry, trying to write stories, make plans on what you can think about and write about, theorize about, problems of the world. Try and write it in your head. So these are the things that you can do today. You don't have to wait till you're arrested and detained. Okay, so the third thing is being steadfast in your political ideals. That's the only way. See how Chairman Nasir is so steadfast in his political ideas. Who can break him? I couldn't break him, even if I tried. So you got to be sure what you're fighting for. Okay, today it's very good that we are seeing so many young people on demonstration and rallies, in birthday rallies, etc. But you have to know what you're fighting for. Free and fair elections is fine. Okay, is that all? To many of these people, these big political leaders today in Pakatan Harapan, they want Najib to fall. Is that all? Najib falls and then what? Mahathir comes in. Great. 20 more years, you know. So what are we fighting for? Is fighting for self, fighting for career, go to parliament to be a member of parliament? And is that all you aim for, you know? What reforms? You should ask these politicians, ask yourself, what reforms do you want to see? How do you want to reform Malaysian society? The budget has just just gone through, you know. Wealth redistribution in this country, is the budget doing that enough? Is Pakatan Harapan putting forward reforms that will redistribute wealth? The 50 richest Malaysians in this country, according to Forbes, that never tells a lie about wealth, they own something like 50 billion. The GST is only 40 billion, isn't it? These 50 top people, including 2 sons of Mahathir, so I don't know, if Mahathir is going to, advantage of Mahathir to Pakatan Harapan is money, or can he draw the people? I remember the other day I said, I don't believe Mahathir, I believe that PAS can draw more people than Mahathir, because Mahathir pulled in 12 people to Bersih, and he didn't pull in that many people to the PJ rally either. And let's watch. I think some of the Pakatan Harapan says, Kwa is delusional. We'll see who is delusional, and ask, any of them are prepared to bet with me, okay? So whose interest? And unless we are fighting for, you know, the greater good of this country, to put a better future for the poor, the working class, and not just, today the developers have bought over Barisan Nasional as well as bought over Pakatan Harapan. You can tell that from the supplement in your newspaper every day, right? Eco World, this, blah, blah, blah. You knocked down, they destroyed the forest behind my house, permanent forest, and then built Eco World for the rich. And then they don't know how, there's no housing. If this housing is beyond the reach of people. And so this is the kind of world that we are prepared for. So you have to prepare for something better than that. And if you prepare for something better than that, ask questions. Is it these people or is it the class that is more important? And then maybe your political ideals could be as staunch, as solid as Chairman Nasir. And then you'll be prepared when the time comes. So Chin Chin ended up with a quote, and I want to sing you a song. Because during Operation Lalang, or after that, when we just came out, we had a theme song, Operation Lalang theme song. Isn't it good to know that there was a theme song? It's not an original song. It was a song that was written by somebody called Jack Warshaw and made popular by this Irish singer called Christy Moore. Okay. They call it the law. We call it inhuman, degrading detention. It's a law that they made to keep you and me where they think we belong. They hide behind blind allegations and spies a bag full of lies, and tell us who suffer the pain of internment that we're in the wrong. No time for love if they come in the morning. No time to show fear of our tears in the morning. No time for goodbyes, no time to ask why. And the wheel of the chill runs the cry of the morning. They took away writers and critics, lawyers and socially conscious, MPs and trade union leaders, all part of the stake, detained without trial, thrown behind bars and barbed wire. And as for the crime, their only beliefs were their only mistake. No time for love if they come in the morning. No time to show fear of our tears in the morning. No time for goodbyes. No time to ask why. And the wail of the children is the cry of the morning. They suffered in silence, in solitary confinement for 61 days. That was the technical point, that they supposed to be 60 days. Abused and tormented by goons for being so involved. The day after Christmas, they are served with an order for 62 more years. But the months of detention have failed to break their resolve. No time for love if they come in the morning. No time to show fear of our tears in the morning. No time for goodbyes. No time to ask why. And the wail of the chill runs the cry of the morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Uncle Soong. Okay, before I continue Q&A, we would also like to invite Mr. KK Tan to share his side of story briefly.
Actually, this IST to me and my friends were nothing actually, because on the day we formed the Papan support group, with the NGOs, 20 NGOs, I was still very young. I remember that night I thought about it, ISA will come. So I slept well actually. So, and we also knew about the Mate's plan. So Mate is lying if he say he didn't know, or unless he's doing a copycat of Singapore's detention of friends there. So it's bullshit, because I remember, during the 60-day, they show me a chart like Singapore, leader there, Tangga Keng, you're there, and these all your members, all the organizations. And they told me I'm the second man of CPM. Wow, I'm glad. I'll give you a good treat when I go out, I'm going to write a book, I told them, I'm so high up, But we did, I can't remember, Nasir, you're with us, because 2-3 months before that, we already heard they are going to have it, okay? Because some of our friends are very close to, or relatives are SB. So we have a Last Supper. Were you there? We had Last Supper, Cecilia, Cheng Ling, myself, Chin Chin, were you there? Yeah, you see, we had our last supper. I know, kind of last laugh, you know. So we ask everybody, anything you want to kao tai, you know, Hokkien, no? Say what you want to say now, you tell people before you go in. So it was like that. And actually, Mahathir's plan was 550 people. This came from a minister I met later, okay, much later. And what do you call that? Once the what do you call arrest started, I think the share price kept dropping. And can you imagine the Bumi shares, you know, gone down? He didn't care. But on the 20th of November, when they have arrested 106, you know, still far off from the 550, it was 250 points. That time I didn't know about share, but now I know. So 1997, during the financial crisis, I made quite a bit of money. It dropped to the bottom. Well, that is partly because I study instability theory, you know, how a system collapses, okay? So my whole life is about trying to, you know, break down a system, although they're trying to break me down. So as a person, I think from a very young age, I'm sort of prepared to change the world somehow, because I witnessed several protests, you know, for justice in my kampong, in the small village. So all my life seems to be prepared for that. So I also prepared my son. So 11-year-old, he had to go on birthday. So it's important as young men, don't worry about all this threat. Because I think we are born, to a certain extent, our fate is fixed, you know, whether you like it or not. You choose your pathway, but I think most important, if you study, I always remember from a young age, we study to change the world. If you are not prepared to change the world, then you're wasting your time. It's better be a hawker, you know? Because they make more money, okay? So today, I also want to say a little bit about what Mahathir needs to do. So he cannot deny what he did and the damage he has done to this country. Like now he tried to file a case against 1MDB. You're thrown out. It's all because of him. Now he's eating his own medicine, tasting his own medicine. So, I mean, the whole thing will destroy the country. I mean, I feel like I reflected over the last few months or so. We had 22-year dictatorship, then sodomy. Then we come these big diamonds, you know, 1MDB. I don't know what's next. So if you are not prepared to change this country, change the world, I think the life could be quite sad, I think. Be very sad, okay? Now, talking about survival, I can only say that I'm very lucky. I learned Tai Chi with our old detainees who were there for 17 years or so. But I did have my master, Sifu Yunus, who has passed away already. He taught me, he didn't teach me, but he teach all of us yoga. We started at 50, I think next two weeks become 20. Then so in the end, he and I only. So you can see in the sunset, only he and I, and we stage a protest. We always cut bota, and also 2 of us standing in the field, 2 of us doing this. So this is very, very important, because if you want to survive in such a drastic environment, you must have a way to survive. But to me, the survival comes from a philosophy. I am what do you call, a free thinker on the one hand, but mainly I'm a Tao man, so I'm not detached. I have no religion. I have no party belong to that can, what do you call, work for my release. I mean, I'm nobody, so it's kind of nice for me. So I totally detached. So even the, what do you call, pemilihan officer, pegawai pemilihan, they try to rehabilitate. What's wrong with me, I say? You see, radiation, because I campaign against radiation in Paban, in Bukit Merah. You see, radiation, mungkin ni selamat. I say, you selamat, I can stay here selamat forever. Never mind. As long as your radiation is safe, I can stay here forever. I told him, you know. And then I went back to the prison there. So then Yunus asked me, what happened? What do you say? I said, mati lah, you'll be here forever. Yunus. But you see, a bit of humor, you know. But you have to have a good philosophy in your life, okay? Then you're not attachment. So you don't get threats, you know. So even they threatened me to squeeze my balls. They say, you don't own up. You are second man in CPM. I'm going to squeeze your balls. How long can you take? Okay? But I later heard that from the old ISA detainees, they actually tried to destroy their manhood. They really kicked them because they fear if they go out, because they are very strong, they may take revenge. So I remember one of our kampong girl, we found out later she's a leader of the underground organization. When she came back, only a body, only bones left. Terrible. They destroy her, they torture her. I think they rape her. So he jumped from the detention center. Yeah. So, but this is a terrible thing, a very terrible thing. But we heard of that. We were, of course, we are not fearful in a way that we are like succumb to it, but we all surely have our own fear. You know, what will they do to us? So I think it's important that you must decide in your life. I can see that 22-year dictatorship, Sonomi, how many years, I don't know, but this Diamond and 1MDB thing will continue for a long time. So I don't know how you're going to live, but I'm going to go very soon to join Yunus. Thank you.
Thank you, Saudara, for sharing. Okay, Q&A. Kita boleh pergi kepada soalan or comments. You can tell your name, then you can ask your questions or your feedbacks, comments. No questions? Haris?
Hi, this is actually addressed to all. I've heard from previous detainees that during the 60-day period, you are confined in a holding place that has no window. Was it difficult keeping track of time? Because you sleep and you don't know how long you've slept. And if it was difficult, was there any way you could overcome this?
Thank you.
This is very interesting part. Also about survival. Actually, the room is very tiny, and I don't know where this place is, but I think it's not Sungai Besi Airport. It's not. It is not. Probably quite near Yunus' place. So it is just very small room. There's no light. Very small lights. I think maybe 10 watts. So you cannot see anything. So the temperature is kind of constant, and you don't know day and night except like somebody from kampong. I heard the cockroaches, ayam. There are 2 times in the morning. I think middle of the night in the morning, and then maybe afternoon they don't. And it's very hot, so the only way you give me to survive, give me a chance to join a nudist camp. So I always naked all the time, because it's so warm. You can't rest. Sleeping is, I think, is the worst thing. So it's true. It's really a bad place. But I think it is because for the first I think 4 days, I can't remember, 24 hours interrogation, and then they keep changing the new officer, so you don't know what's coming next, and then they like Nasir say, you told our officer in the last chat, this, and then we think it's not true, so now you bring back, keep attacking you, all this. So when they won't let you go back to the room also. That would be a reward if they let you go back to your room. So it's not easy.
Thank you. I'll collect some questions or comments, feedbacks. Ada? Anyone? No? Okay, Saudara.
Hi, good evening. I'm Carlson. I just want to ask, do the detainees actually held activities like, or detainees held activities to just lighten up whatever has been going on? For example, I'm not really sure, but maybe did you guys actually celebrate Christmas, Chinese New Year, all that stuff during when you guys detained? Thank you.
Arul?
No, they always say detention there is quota lah. Indian quota, Chinese quota, Malay quota and all that, to make the state look they are very fair. Satu Malaysia. What I wanted to know, inside the detention, detention, do they play a racial thing to divide within the detainees? Do they use similar tactics? Like maybe try to segregate according to race or ethnicity or religion or what? Do they do that?
Hi, my name is. Sorry, someone else?
Yeah, the guy over there, and then yeah.
I would like to ask a question: is that is there any possible, since you all know that Mahathir have done such a wrong thing, and then any way to take a legal action against him, or did anybody try to do that? Any intention to do that? That's my question.
Saudara.
Hi, my name is Daniel. This question is directed to Dr. Kwa. You mentioned earlier during the song that you sang at the end of your session something about 61 days, and I know that's going above the 60 days original solitary confinement of ISA. Could you elaborate a bit more on what happened with that?
Thank you. Any more? Okay.
I'm sure as anyone who is there to speak out the truth, either you're at the activist level or opposition, hardcore, whatever it is, you are prepared. I'm sure you are always prepared. You're not that naive that you do not know that you're fighting the arch enemy. Anytime they will call you, because as long as you're exposed, you're marked already. So now the thing is, of course, the authority will exercise whatever act on them. They also need to be protected and preserve themselves. So now they use the law against you to destroy you. But you'll be detained under ISA, under Operation Lalang. But while you are there, do you ever foresee that you may die? You ever foresee that the way they makes you so miserable, that they torture you, that you will go mental breakdown, you go cuckoo? Do you foresee all these things, and are you really fear of all these things? And what is the most fear that you ever imagine in that? Yeah, that's the reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Ada lagi? Okay, there, over there. Oh, here first.
I'm Lee. You had told us about your story and a lot of actually preparation, a lot of preparation in case. Do you mean that, let's say, during May 13, because of the crisis, they created that May 13, the riot, and because of the Mahathir's the holding on to the power, they created this Operation Lalang. Do you foresee any in future? Because you had prepared us for the future.
Okay, behind there.
This question is directed to Ms. Irene. Were there any other women detainees that were also bitten? Yeah, that's all.
Okay,
Babu. About torture. I didn't know you got being tortured inside. So how many among the ex-detainees for Operasi Lalang write or compose some story to prove that you were tortured? Because the Operasi Lalang, except for Irene Xavier, is not highlighted about the torture. So in our case, like my case, I write small book detailing 285 kesalahan special branch terus masa menahan saat di sungai. So there was impact to the Suhakam, and 285 kesalahan. Little bit we put as torture. To me, detention under ISA is all torture, not only physical. So how do we capitalize on that for Operasi Lalang people?
Thank you. Ada lagi? Okay, one more for the first round. Kalau ada.
Hello, I'm Choi Wan. My question is directed to Miss Irene Xavier.
Sorry, can I hear?
I'm very sorry to hear about the beating. Have you ever thought of going legal address, sue the government for compensation, even though the monetary compensation is not much, but it's just the action of compensation, number one. Or number two, or you think that maybe go through the YouTube, you got your justice done, you get by justice if you tell the whole world about the torture. Number three is or perhaps all this compensation is not important, but the very beating on the receiving end is already leave an indelible lifelong mark, or how do you deal with it? Because it's like, yeah, I understand the humiliation, and the force and the strength of the beating. We don't know, but how do you deal with it, after you come out of it? Thanks.
Okay, so that's the first round. So we have like 11 questions actually. And okay, the first is from Haris, is to all the speakers, but I'm going to take some autonomy from this. I'm going to just anyone, okay? 60 days, how was it difficult to track the time? And okay, so I'm going to pass to Irene.
In my case, actually, I could differentiate day and night in that cell that I was held in, because there's a ventilation hole, so I can see sunlight and darkness. But still, it's difficult to record how many days. So I used to scratch with the, the lidi, the broomstick. Kept on small piece, and I used to scratch on the wall for every day that is passed. So so I sort of knew that the 60 days, how soon the 60 days will come. Yeah, so that used to be one track that I used to use. Another thing is that the police are on 4-hour shifts. So at the end of 4 hours, that one shift will go and another shift will come. Whenever they come, they will do a roll call. They'll call your number. So that can also sort of tell you 4 hours has passed. These are things that I did.
Okay, Nasir.
For me, I was in the dungeon. I do not know when, day and night. They don't wear a watch. So I decided, okay, this is breakfast. Next thing I know, I got 3 breakfasts in one day. Gone, So I didn't hear any sound. It was really a small light there, but I do not know. Because even they don't even have their name, just the picture. They don't wear a watch, so the meaning that it is deep somewhere down underground. So I never know when day and night. I just lost touch when I was trying to keep pace. They changed the diet. So basically, I didn't know. For the 60 days, I do not know when day and when is night. Because I think they're quite good at, because I was hoping that they would wear a watch, but they didn't. They were trained to do that, so,
Thank you. The question from Arul, like whether there was a racial sentiment was played to create tension between the detainees. Who wants to answer on this? Nasir?
Yes, the one who was interrogated the Malays. So, stressing about the problem, the importance of the Malays. So I said to them, the Malay doesn't even know what Merdeka is all about. So we have done research. I was in a master's program in research with Mahidol University, Queensland University and UKM. And our guys would go to Terengganu and all that. You see some people, the house is from bamboo, they smash it down and become the wall. And that's how poor they are. And when there's a season, they have to move from one end to the other end to make a living. So what is Merdeka is all about? So basically, they try to do that. But we just stifle it by just saying it's not right. It's not true. They didn't even know what Merdeka is all about. So yes, they do play with race, only how we handle it. Because some people under pressure can relent to it.
Okay, anyone want to tumble? I just want to say this is not my experience, but this is from the affidavit of Joshua Jamaluddin. They actually used religion and race very much with him because they claim that he is a Christian, a Malay Christian who was trying to convert other Malays. And so during the 60 days, he was tortured by everyone. Like for me, it's the interrogators who do the torture. But for him, even the police officers, police personnel in the cell who are in charge of you, taking you out and bringing you back, even they were given liberties to torture him. So I don't know, maybe that's some extreme expression of Islam, maybe, how they perceive Islam to be, and how this man is a traitor to Islam or something. But that was something that police tolerated. And they tried to force him in Kamunteng. We have different kitchens. We have a Muslim kitchen, Chinese kitchen. In my time, there was no Indian kitchen, so we have to choose Chinese or Muslim. And he chose Chinese purposely. He didn't want to choose the Muslim kitchen, and then they all tried to pressure him to eat from the Muslim kitchen, but he didn't want to, because he didn't want to fast during the 40 days and all that. So, yeah, so those things happen. But I also have to add, because there were 4 women in my kawasan, and 3 of them were released, and I was still there. So I was considered to be alone. And people from the men's kawasan actually expressed a lot of solidarity with me. So I used to receive special food from the Chinese kitchen, and I used to receive special food cooked by Sabu, Muhammad Sabu, sent to me. Thai food that he will cook, tom yum, he sent. Yeah, and past people in Kamunteng, Taiping area, they will send a lorry load of durians, and they give it to everyone in Kamunteng. So while the police had their tactics, but I think within the kawasan, people were very sympathetic, and they lived as much as they could in solidarity. Yeah.
Uncle Soong, can you cover on the legal action against Mahathir, your 61 days and the compensation?
Yeah, I think yesterday Siva was talking about the technical faults we tried to find with the government, but they all failed. And one of them was because they make a lot of boobas during those arrests and detention. And for example, in my case, instead of being detained for 60 days, I was detained for 61 days, And so with a lot of people as well, because we all on one coach. So there's about a whole coach load of people detained for 61 days. So if you go to a court on technical grounds, the judge would have given it to us, given his habeas corpus, But because the law had been tightened to such an extent, even to the last minute, that only with that absurd case of Kapal Singh could you win your habeas corpus. And the other question is, I want to answer the one about torture. What is the other one? I think I've already touched on that one. But a question of torture, I think, well, a friend asking about what is the worst they could do. That's what the human mind can do, you know, that they can do. And actually, like I've stressed many times, since the ISA was legislated in 1960, up to the time that the ISA was rescinded, they had arrested and detained more than 10,000 Malaysians. So out of those 10,000 cases, you can imagine what kind of and Anne's book, although it has a very deep sounding authoritarian populism in Malaysia, actually the research is actually one of the most thorough expositions of detention without trial, and stretching from the early days, you know, colonial times, 60s, etc. And what they went through is many, many times worse than us. And in my book, in the appendix of this book, one document I found in my research on the ISA was was one of the earliest documents I found, was this excerpt from by the political prisoners of Kawasan A, B, and C, dated 1st May 1969, Batu Gajah detention camp. At the time they had detention camp Batu Gajah. And this was signed by all of them there. And it says, "We political detainees have undergone days and nights of endless interrogation which have inflicted grave toll on the mental condition of many detainees. Number 2, during interrogation we have been handcuffed, had our abdominal parts kicked, our heads bashed against the wall until they bled, and some have had to be hospitalized." And I know that I think there was one case of a unionist during Operation Lalang in the 60 days as well, where this happened. Number 3, we have had needles stuck in our fingernails and pencils used to squeeze our fingers between them. Number 4, we have been burned with cigarette lighters and hit with elastic bands. Some have had nails inserted into their genitals. Okay. Number 5, we have been asked to strip off our pants and to sit on open bottles. We have been made to take off our clothing and to stand before fans and air conditioners until we have passed out. The banishment law has been invoked to force political detainees out of the country, while those who do not accept banishment are kept on long-term detentions. Some at Seremban detention camp have already been detained for between 10 to 20 years already. 10 to 20 years already. And I think this banishment, you know, now we don't see banishment very much, but during the emergency, you know, banishment was very, very common. You can read Anne's book to find that out. And I believe that some of those banishments included Wakil Rakyat. There were some people who had been elected MPs and state assembly person who were banished to China. I'm not sure about to India as well, but this happened. So we political prisoners have been detained for between 4 to 8 years without trial. This was in 69. The riot squad has been mobilized to storm our detention camp in order to force those who have refused to wear handcuffs when they leave the camp to do so. In the process, there has been bloodshed. And yesterday, sharing, there was one Lee Ban Chen who was involved in the Asahan strikes. Okay, in what year was that? In the Asahan strikes in the 66. Okay, and he took part in that hunger strike as well, where the riot squad came into the detention camp and bludgeoned the hell out of them. He had to have he had a nail. He ran into a nail and went straight into his stomach, and he had to be sent to hospital. So they underwent things that we didn't undergo in Operation Lalang, and this is what they took. Because in Operation Lalang, some of our fellow detainees were also people from the past. There was one, unfortunately, he just passed away a few months ago, the longest-serving Malaysian detainee, Mr. Lu Ming Leong. Okay, when he came to share the room with me in July, I checked today in my book, July 1988, He had been detained for 16 years. And he had one of the brightest smiles on his face that I've ever seen of any person. You know, I of course turned green when he told me that. Okay. Number 10, health and medical services are very poor in the camp. Those who leave for hospital treatment are forced to be handcuffed. At 9 o'clock, we are forced into hot and stuffy cells, and etc. Okay. So you're asking me, what is the worst the government can do? You know, if this is not bad enough, you know, what can they do? Guantanamo Bay, they can do the same as to what they do there. And in the worst detention camp in the world, that's what they can do. Okay, that's what they threatened to do with us.
Well, our time is different. You see, of all 100 of people detained, most of us are professional, highly educated, you know, and the treatment is different, so they go on your brain. You see, for example, this guy came to me, the officer, he told me, he bragged about it, very proud of it. He had made many people mad. So he told me that, you see. So they do this kind of thing to you, you know. Then you think over it, you know, whether you accept.
Any possible to take an action, a legal action against him? Is this a very sensitive issue to ask for? And then nobody can answer that?
Sorry. I haven't answered it, not because nobody can answer that. Soon after his release, Kapal Singh did take up a case against no better person than Kapal Singh, and he won the case. And he was compensated with one ringgit or something like that. In 1988, not 98, 89 after that, in 1990 maybe. Okay, so other cases like yesterday I mentioned in my speech, Malik Hussein, who was detained and tortured, detained for 58 days according to Soong. He got 2.5 million. Okay, so that money is aside. You know, we are not asking for money. We're asking him to apologize. But you're talking about taking up a case against him. So Kapal Singh has taken the case against him. After looking at that film, I never saw before, that was put forward by David Anthony. The first time I've seen the testimony by the 4 women, and I see what they went through is actually something that should be taken up. You know, what Heng Ling was talking about. Apart from Irene being beaten on her feet, Heng Ling being, you know, sexually harassed, asked her to take her blouse off, before I presume a man interrogation officer. This is something that should be taken up, I think, you know, against the police. And that is why I think before we go, one of the demands that we should make on Pakatan Harapan, because there's no hope for Barisan Nasional. When Pakatan Harapan wants to win the election, in the first 100 days, they should start the process of setting up the IPCMC. And they should start the process of ratifying the Convention Against Torture within the first 100 days. We should make them commit to that. Okay? And the other thing about torture is that, don't think that the one I wrote was 69. Operation Lalang, I did a survey of all the people who were detained in Kamunteng. Those from the big parties like DAP and PAS, they were not tortured like that. But those from the small social actives groups, like Nasir, you know, the 4 women, Joshua Jamaluddin. Joshua Jamaluddin probably went through the worst torture of all. You want me to read from my book? You know, I've written it on Facebook, etc. But it's just as bad as, almost as bad as the 69 testimony that I wrote. Okay. Like we said, SUARAM monitors death in custody and abuse of police power. when they happen, we make the police be accountable. But under the ISA, what happens in the 60 days? Nobody knows about it except the detainees. You know, that's why we say there must be a IPCMC.
Thank you. The last questions to Chin Chin. Do you all celebrate Christmas, Deepavali? And
You mean in Kamunting? Yeah. Well, we celebrated. The first celebration we had was that we got our detention orders on Christmas Day lah. So that was the first celebration that we had. Okay. And then we were taken to Kamunting on Boxing Day. So that was 26th of December. Other than that, in Kamunting, because we were only 4 women among ourselves, we had limited interaction with the men. The men were in, there were more of them, and and they interacted more among each other. We had very limited interaction. Yeah, we had badminton matches. Then we get a chance to go out and meet them. It's like in the olden days when your parents restrict you from going out. Yeah, we had very just among ourselves. So we make our own celebrations. Yeah, we had a barbecue. Because I planted some jagung. And then the jagung started to fruit, and then we had a barbecue. Then I got my husband to bring in what was it already? No, not antenna. The juice. Some juice, which he had homemade juice lah. His homemade juice. So. And then, so these kind of things. But even to do that, we had to ask permission. We had to ask special permission to do that, to hold a barbecue, because that was out of the ordinary. So we had to write in, and the way they make us write is quite demeaning lah. So and so, detainee of so and so. We always had to use this format. Otherwise, it will be rejected immediately. So they do all. I mean, we are. Yeah, I so and so number. Yeah. So. You as in KK Tan, your number still exists.
I'm buying it,
Have you ever struck? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chin Chin. I'm sorry we are really out of time now. So a round of, final one. Thank you. Sivan? Okay, Sivan, then over there.
I just have a quick comment when talking about the torture. One of the reason civil society leaders detention was Maria last year under SOSMA, so that's a 28 days without trial. So the IGP claimed, the former IGP claimed that there was no torture done. So Maria was okay, there was no torture done. The question is, when we throw it back to IGP, will you willing to be 28 days in the solitary confinement? That's already a torture. There's already mental torture. So not only physical torture, there's a lot of mental torture, like Chin Chin rightly pointed out. So we don't think that when you don't have a physical torture, there's no torture. The solitary confinement separate you from your family members and friends is already a huge torture. That's one. Number two, Kua's, they've shared how much they've been tortured, and then Kua have some list of what kind of torture they have done. That's not end in 87 Operasi Lalang. It didn't end in 90s. It didn't end in 2000. It's happening now. We, in early 2016, we received some prison notes. I don't know how it was smuggled out from the SOSMA detainee. And then same writing, same kind of torture which Kua read, or worse than that, including sexual. So it's happening now. But during the Operasi Lalang, it's a big success, we get rid of our ISA, but now we have SOSMA and POCA, but it's not as popular as Operasi Lalang, it's not popular as ISA, because a lot of political detention was done during ISA throughout the years. But SOSMA and POCA, you're confined to someone have related to terrorism, someone related to crime. But it's there. So we want more support. People have to come out. You learn from the past. You have to come out and register your protest against these laws as well. And join us for the struggle against the detention without trial in Malaysia. Thank you.
Thank you. Saudara?
Hi. These questions goes to all of you, all four. Now that Mahathir is in Pakatan Harapan already, so does that actually a sign of he being remorse or make him any less wrong in your perceptions? And knowing that such torture has been done to all of you, so what do you actually demand from Mahathir? Is it mere apology, or is it that Mahathir has to go for also a same detention in the same cell? Thank you.
No detention without trial for anybody.
Yes.
Even Mahathir. He can be punished for whatever he did. Okay, anyone want to answer that?
Yeah, in my speech yesterday, I mentioned not just the Operation Lalang. I mentioned all the financial scandals that he squandered, what Barry Wayne calls 100 billion that he squandered from us. And I was thinking today, there were other things, besides the plantation workers, the Penorka Bandar, displacing 10,000 indigenous peoples from the Bakun area. To me, is the most wicked thing you can ever do to a people. This is what Mahathir has done, worse than what is done to Operation Lalang. So these are things, what we're asking for all those things I said yesterday, we're asking him to apologize. Simple as that. I do not want him detained. SUARAM doesn't believe in detention without trial. But there should be no impunity for kleptocrats. He's also shouting about kleptocracy. It's ridiculous. Do you think Mahathir's time is 20 years of kleptocracy? Crony capitalism, and so forth. The whole privatization, what Lim Chin Chin calls piratization. Have you never heard? You've been through the 80s and 90s, you would have heard Lim Chin Chin and Charama. This is what we call piratization. Piratization means it's a pirate. A pirate is a ruder word than kleptocrat. Do you know that? So for all that, all we're asking for is a very sincere apology, and that he has become a born-again Democrat. Okay? If he can tell us, that's what we're asking for. For what they've raped the country dry for 20 years, we're asking him for apologize, you cannot. And these people say, oh, he doesn't need to apologize. Lim Kit Siang, Lim Guan Eng. I read a declaration that is in this book. What we declared on the first anniversary of Operation Lalang, pointing to Mahathir. And today you say, no, Mahathir says it's not him, it's the IGP. Simple as that. We are just a very sincere apology. Doesn't cost money.
The apology, I want to say, is not just to the family, it's to the nation. Screw up the whole country for so long, 22 years. You see Project IC. I was the chairman of the anti-Bakun committee. I said, they always say the hydroelectric power is green. I say bullshit. You first remove the people from their kampong for thousands of years. You say this is development. And many of them die as prostitute, as alcoholic once they go to different places. They didn't know that they're given even car, aircon. They didn't know they had to buy electricity, had to buy petrol. Within 2 years, finish, you know. So these are horrible, but I like to say it's not only apology, we need also compensation, as has been mentioned, Malik Hussein case, because a lot of harm and damages been caused. So many of us carry out campaign, we've lost a lot of time and money. You see, like Papan, Bukit Merah, Bakun area, people have no money. They are half employed, you know, whole area, very poor places, and we all have to fork our money. So I just casually mentioned, because of Malik Hussein case 2.5, I say those 60 days we pay 2 million. Those token are just token, you know, those incumbent pay 5 million. But this just meant for mention only, it's not the real money, but it has to be, I think there should be compensation in some way. And then you can give it to charity if you want money.
Okay, thank you everyone. Again, one round of applause to all the speakers. Thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you for our pretty moderator, Ranili, and all the speakers for today. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we give a big clap to them.